She was just 5 years old, a pink balloon in one hand, a doll in the other. 1 second, she was laughing under a tree at her own birthday party. The next, she was gone. No screams, no witnesses, just silence. And a juice box left behind. 15 years later, a woman walks into a small-town bakery and orders a birthday cake. Pink butterflies, a single candle, and one name written on top. Anna. The baker freezes. Because that was the name of a doll her missing sister never went anywhere without. This is the story of a sister who never stopped looking, of a girl who didn't even know she was lost, and of a birthday cake that would finally bring the truth to the surface. Before we begin, tell me, where in the world are you watching from? The scent of buttercream and rain hung in the Arkansas air like a memory no one wanted to acknowledge. It was the kind of afternoon where the clouds didn't cry yet, but threatened to, thick, bruised gray cotton pulling across the sky. Beneath that uncertain ceiling, Barton Park buzzed with music, balloons, and the laughter of children. Folding chairs scraped against concrete. Paper plates fluttered on picnic tables, heavy with half-eaten cake. A radio somewhere near the playground played "Pocketful of Sunshine." It was April 22nd, 2010, Ava Jordan's 5th birthday. She wore a pink tulle dress that swayed every time she jumped. Her favorite sneakers, white with purple laces, were already stained from damp grass. She was small even for 5, with dark hair braided tightly by her older sister that morning, and she never let go of her butterfly balloon. 27 people were there that day, all family, all friends, all witnesses to her last known moment. Except nobody saw it, not really. Melissa Jordan, 15 at the time, remembered pouring fruit punch when it happened. Her back was turned. She was trying to cut the sheet cake without tearing the edible image of Ava's face printed on top. Their mother, Linda, was chatting with another parent. Their father, already distant, was looking at his phone under the shelter near the grill. The park wasn't crowded, but it wasn't empty either. A nearby family celebrated a toddler's birthday 2 tables down. A man walked his dog in loops near the swings. A woman handed out pamphlets about a local church near the parking lot. Ordinary people. Background noise. Ava had been playing with her new doll, Anna, a plush version of a fairy character from a Saturday morning cartoon. 1 second she was sitting under the red maple tree giggling and brushing the doll's hair. The next, she was gone. No scream, no sound of struggle, no cries. Gone like a bubble popped in the breeze. Melissa remembered the moment she looked up and saw nothing but the crumpled juice box Ava had been sipping. No balloon, no little girl. Just silence where there should have been motion. She dropped the cake knife and ran. By the time police arrived, Ava had been missing for 28 minutes. Surveillance footage from the parking lot was grainy and delayed. No license plates, no clear faces. A blurry figure in a tan hoodie appeared in the far corner of the video, but vanished before anyone could make sense of it. Volunteers searched the nearby creek. Dogs sniffed out trails that went cold just past the service road. Helicopters swept the woods. National news outlets flashed Ava's face alongside numbers and tip lines. A reward fund was established. Thousands of leads were followed. None of them led anywhere. Linda Jordan stopped speaking. David Jordan, the father, left 3 months later and never came back. Melissa was left to piece together a home with echoes instead of laughter. And the case? Cold before Ava's 6th birthday. 15 years passed. Barton Park aged. The playground was replaced. The tree under which Ava had last been seen was cut down after a lightning strike. The picnic tables were painted over with brighter colors. Families returned, children played, and birthdays continued. New laughter layered over old silence, but Melissa never returned. Not until the cake order. It was a Thursday morning in April, exactly 1 day before Ava's birthday. The weather was identical to that day 15 years ago, overcast, the air sticky with coming rain. Melissa now owned a small bakery called Sweet Roots, tucked between a nail salon and an antique shop in downtown Little Rock. It was her world. Every cake had meaning. Every detail mattered. She'd started the bakery 6 years ago, naming it after her grandmother's recipe book, and the idea that even the deepest wounds needed sweetness to heal. Business was good. Weddings, anniversaries, birthdays, it all passed through her hands. But some dates, some orders, they cut deeper. That Thursday, her assistant Callie handed her a phone message scribbled on a pink pad. Birthday cake order, wants pickup Friday. Said she wants a vanilla base, raspberry filling, white frosting with pink butterflies, and one word on top, Anna, no last name, paid in cash. Pick up 3 p.m. tomorrow. Melissa froze. Her heart thumped so hard she couldn't hear the coffee machine sputtering in the background. Anna. The name hit her like a window shattering inward. Nobody outside her family would have remembered that Ava called her doll Anna. Not even Callie knew. It was never in the news. It wasn't in the flyers. It was a name used only within the safe walls of their house. The cake flavor, the butterflies. Even the pickup time matched the exact hour Ava had disappeared. Melissa looked at the order form again. The woman's handwriting was precise, looping. She'd written, "For Anna, 20th birthday." That couldn't be a coincidence. She stood motionless for nearly 30 seconds, her brain struggling to reconcile logic with memory. It could be nothing. It could be coincidence. But it felt like a thread. And Melissa had been waiting 15 years for a thread. That night, she couldn't sleep. Rain tapped against her apartment window like fingers too afraid to knock. She sat at her kitchen table with a glass of wine, flipping through the old box of newspaper clippings and photos she kept hidden in the back of her closet. Headlines faded with time. Child vanishes from park party, no new leads in Ava Jordan disappearance, reward raised to $75,000, still no Ava. She spread out the pages like a crime board, the faces blurred together, officers, psychics, volunteers. One tipster had claimed to see Ava in a gas station in Tulsa in 2014. Another said she'd been adopted by a cult in New Mexico. All of it amounted to nothing. Melissa traced her finger along a photo of Ava holding the butterfly balloon, cheeks full of cake, eyes squinting from sunlight. She whispered to the photo, "Is this you, Ava? Did you ask for this cake?" She didn't sleep. The next morning, she arrived at Sweet Roots early. The kitchen smelled of sugar and citrus. She started baking the cake without looking at the recipe. It was all muscle memory now. She baked it carefully. Soft vanilla sponge layers, raspberry preserves imported from Oregon, whipped buttercream. She smoothed the white frosting in concentric circles, breathing deeply to steady her hands. And then came the butterflies. She piped them in soft pink, 5 of them circling toward the center, one larger than the rest. In the center, she piped the word, Anna. When it was done, she just stood there, staring. It looked like a mirror of the cake from that day, 15 years ago. The only difference was the name. At 2:50 p.m., she positioned herself at the front counter. The cake sat in a box behind her. Her hands trembled. Her heart wouldn't stop racing. She had no idea what the woman looked like, no camera footage, no name, no certainty, just a gut feeling that today would be different. At exactly 3:03 p.m., the bell above the door rang. Melissa's breath caught in her throat. The woman who entered looked to be in her mid-50s. She had shoulder-length silver hair, neatly styled, a floral scarf tied around her neck, calm eyes, a polite smile. The kind of woman who could have been your child's piano teacher. Ordinary, harmless, familiar. Melissa stepped forward. "Can I help you?" The woman smiled. "I'm here for a cake, for Anna." Melissa nodded slowly. Of course. One moment. She walked into the kitchen to retrieve the box, but instead of returning right away, she reached into her pocket and pressed a small button. A GPS alert pinged a private number she'd memorized years ago. It belonged to Harper Wells, the now-retired detective who'd handled Ava's case and promised Melissa once, "If anything seems off, you call me. Doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m. or 30 years from now." She returned to the counter with the cake. The woman examined it. Her smile didn't change, but her eyes softened. "It's perfect," she said quietly. Melissa hesitated. "Who is it for, if you don't mind me asking?" The woman looked up. Her voice was warm. "For my daughter. She's turning 20 tomorrow. She's never had a real birthday cake before." Melissa tried to steady her voice. "What's her name?" "Anna," the woman replied, and for a moment everything was still, the hum of the fridge, the sound of a car passing outside, the buzz of a fly near the window. Melissa finally spoke. "Did she ever have a doll named Anna?" The woman blinked, a twitch, barely perceptible. "No," she said too quickly. "Why?" Melissa forced a smile. "Just curious. It's a lovely name." She handed over the box, keeping her fingers on it for just a second too long. The woman nodded politely, walked toward the door, and left. Melissa watched her go. She memorized the walk, the way she held the box with both hands, the make and model of the car, a silver Toyota sedan, and the direction she turned when she pulled away. She exhaled only after the taillights vanished. Then she picked up the phone. Melissa Jordan had always baked like she was solving a puzzle. Every measurement was a memory, every swirl of frosting a conversation she never got to finish. She didn't bake to celebrate. She baked to remember. She was 30 now, lived alone in a second-floor apartment above her bakery. No pets, no husband, no children, just a well-used kitchen, a bedroom with faded floral wallpaper, and one shelf filled with worn-down journals, each with a year scratched in the corner like case files. On paper, she was successful. Sweet Roots Bakery had been featured in local magazines. She catered weddings, school events, even the mayor's anniversary party once. People smiled when they tasted her cakes, but Melissa rarely smiled with them. Not fully, not in the way she used to, before Ava disappeared. The thing is, Melissa wasn't just Ava's older sister. She was her protector. She brushed her hair before school. She hid the vegetables under mashed potatoes so Ava wouldn't have to eat them. She taught her how to spell unicorn. She'd slept on the floor next to Ava's bed every time she had a nightmare. And she'd turned her back for 30 seconds, maybe less. Ava had been taken during Melissa's fruit punch run. Melissa had been the one holding the knife, cutting the cake, distracted, smiling for a photo she later tore in half. She was 15 and had no concept of how long a lifetime of guilt could last. Now, 15 years later, that weight hadn't lifted. It had evolved, matured into a quiet, constant ache, like a second heartbeat. After Ava disappeared, everything collapsed in stages. Their mother, Linda, stopped cooking, stopped brushing her hair. She sat at the kitchen table every day for months, sipping cold coffee and staring at the refrigerator, where Ava's drawings still clung to magnets. Their father, David, drowned in the silence. His distance turned into withdrawal, then into blame. Then into a note on the kitchen counter and a bank account emptied. Melissa had to grow up in a house where birthdays were funerals, and no one talked about what really happened. She started baking because it was the only thing that made sense. Her grandmother, Evelyn Jordan, had taught her to bake from a young age. Evelyn ran a bakery in Tulsa before retiring. Her recipe book, passed down in a box wrapped in blue ribbon, became Melissa's guide to navigating life after loss. The pages smelled like nutmeg and lavender. The corners were smudged with vanilla extract. The writing was careful and poetic. Love isn't just felt. Sometimes it's folded into dough. The quietest grief can live in the space between sugar and salt. Melissa read those lines like scripture. By 19, she'd moved out, got a job washing dishes at a local cafe, saved every tip, every extra hour. She enrolled in community college but never finished. The bakery became her education. Sweet Roots opened 3 years later with a used oven, second-hand mixer, and walls painted by Melissa and her best friend, Joanna, over a long weekend with takeout and exhaustion. At first, it was just cupcakes and cookies. Then came wedding cakes, themed events, even vegan custom orders. She handled every detail herself: inventory, invoices, decor, design. But she never advertised birthday cakes for children, not once. Melissa's personality could be summed up in a few quiet traits. She remembered every name she ever heard. She trusted people until they gave her a reason not to. She didn't believe in accidents. When people told her to move on, she nodded politely, then went home and reread the last police report again. She kept a drawer of old clues in her office, things nobody cared about anymore: the juice box, the party guest list, the flyer design, the notes left in their mailbox from people who claimed to have visions, and one crumpled birthday invitation, the original, the one she had printed for Ava's 5th birthday. On it, Ava had scribbled her name in purple crayon, and next to it the word Anna, written childishly under a butterfly sticker. Melissa never threw it away. Her memories of Ava weren't dramatic. They were ordinary. The way she said vanilla instead of vanilla, how she refused to wear socks, how she once insisted a bird followed her home and tried to name it Feathers, how she clutched her doll, Anna, when she was scared, and how she always asked Melissa to sing You Are My Sunshine at bedtime, even if she fell asleep halfway through the first line. These were the things Melissa baked into every layer of her life. Quiet, simple truths. And it was that simplicity that made the cake order feel so loud. The day after the woman picked up the cake, Melissa woke up before dawn. She hadn't slept more than an hour. Her phone buzzed at 6:17 a.m. Unknown number, one new message. It was from Harper Wells, the retired detective. Recognized vehicle, tracked to Benton, following lead. We'll call later. Benton was just 25 miles away, a quiet town, mostly farmland. It had never come up in Ava's case, not once. Melissa stared at the message for nearly a full minute. Then she called in sick to her own bakery. She drove to her mother's house. Linda Jordan now lived in a small cottage north of the city. It had a wraparound porch and a wind chime that hadn't moved in days. The house was quiet, as always, but something about that morning felt heavier. Melissa knocked softly. No answer. She let herself in. The screen door creaked. The inside smelled like chamomile and cedar. Linda was in the living room, seated in her usual chair, a book on her lap she hadn't opened. Melissa stood in the doorway, unsure where to begin. "I got a cake order," she said softly. Linda didn't move. Melissa sat across from her. "Someone asked for a cake, said it was for Anna, pink butterflies, vanilla with raspberry, pick up on Ava's birthday." Silence. Melissa continued, her voice more fragile now. "It was a woman, mid-50s, silver hair. I recognized something in her face, but I couldn't place it." Still nothing. "I think it might be her, Mom," Melissa whispered. "I think I saw the woman who took Ava." Linda finally looked up. Her eyes were rimmed red but dry. She said only one thing: "Don't do this to yourself again." The conversation ended there. Melissa drove back to the bakery, but instead of entering, she sat in her car for nearly an hour, watching the street. The storefront was quiet, normal, as if nothing had changed, but everything had. That night, she reread every page of her old journals, notes about strange tips, dreams she used to have about Ava knocking on the front door, letters she wrote but never sent. and one page stood out. A drawing. She'd sketched a butterfly nearly a decade ago, the same style she'd used on the cake. And under it, a single sentence. If she ever comes back, it will be on wings. She didn't even remember writing it. The next morning Harper called. His voice was older, slower, but still carried the same quiet determination she remembered from her childhood. "I saw her," he said. Melissa's chest tightened. She lives in a small farmhouse just outside Benton. No obvious signs of children, but someone opened the curtain yesterday. Young woman, looked about 20, long brown hair braided down the back. Melissa gripped the phone. "Did she look like Ava?" There was a pause. "She looked like you." Melissa didn't tell anyone she was driving to Benton. She didn't even tell Harper. He had warned her to be patient, that they needed more than a gut feeling and a 20-year-old memory. But she'd waited long enough. 15 birthdays, 15 empty chairs, 15 cakes she never made. The sky was pale and muted when she drove east. Rain had stopped during the night, leaving the roads glazed and reflective like wet glass. Her GPS led her past gas stations, old barns, and fields of wild mustard. It didn't feel like the kind of place someone disappeared to, but maybe that's what made it perfect. She parked a few houses down from the address Harper had given her. The farmhouse was modest. Faded yellow paint, a porch swing, 2 potted plants by the steps. A blue pickup sat in the driveway. No toys in the yard, no mail in the box. But the curtains moved. Someone was inside. Melissa stayed in her car for nearly 30 minutes, pretending to scroll her phone, glancing up every few seconds. At one point, the front door opened. A woman stepped onto the porch, not the older woman from the bakery, someone younger, maybe 20. Brown braid, sweatshirt, jeans. No makeup. She held a mug in one hand, glanced around, and then walked barefoot to the edge of the porch. She looked normal, unsuspecting, quiet, and Melissa felt the breath catch in her throat. That walk, that tilt of the head, that nose. It was Ava. She didn't know how she knew, but she knew. Melissa drove away before the girl could see her. She parked at a gas station a few miles down, locked herself in the bathroom, and cried for the first time in months. Not the quiet kind. The kind that racked your chest and curled your spine, the kind that had no sound, just shaking. It wasn't just the recognition. It was the confirmation that life had gone on without her, that Ava had grown up calling someone else Mom, that Melissa had lost all those years, and this girl didn't even know she was missing. That night she called Harper again. "She's there," she said. "It's her. I saw her." Harper didn't interrupt. Melissa continued. "I need to talk to her, somehow. I need to hear her voice." "I understand," Harper said softly, "but we need to be careful. You said the woman paid in cash. That means she's cautious. She might know. We're watching." "She doesn't know me," Melissa said. "Not like that." A pause. Then Harper sighed. "Then let's find a way to make her see you without putting her in danger." The next day Melissa returned to work, but her mind wasn't there. She overbaked 3 batches of cookies, dropped an entire tray of muffins, snapped at Callie for the first time ever. When customers asked if she was okay, she just smiled and said, "Didn't sleep much." That night she pulled out her journals and flipped to a page marked 2016. It was a letter she wrote but never mailed. "Dear Ava, if you're out there, I hope you're warm. I hope someone tucks your hair behind your ear when you're scared. I hope you don't remember the day you left, because I remember it enough for both of us. I'll never stop looking. Even if I don't know where, even if you don't want to be found." Melissa. 2 days later a woman came into the bakery. Same silver hair, same floral scarf. Melissa tensed the moment she saw her. The woman smiled. Another cake. For Anna again. Melissa managed a nod. Same design. "Something new," the woman said. "Still pink, but maybe with a key this time. She just got her own apartment. I thought it was symbolic. Melissa swallowed. What kind of key? The woman smiled wider. Old-fashioned, like from a music box. Melissa nodded slowly. Of course, I'll make it perfect. After she left, Melissa sat in the back room staring at the invoice. Pink-themed cake, one vintage key piped on top, vanilla with lemon filling for Anna. She turned it over. There was a note scrawled at the bottom. Pick up Friday, please include 1 pink candle. That detail chilled her. A single candle. Not 20, not a number, just 1. As if the birthday being celebrated wasn't 20 years. It was the first birthday they chose to acknowledge. That night, Melissa made a plan. The next Friday, the woman arrived again. Melissa had baked the cake exactly as requested. A delicate piped key in pale pink nestled atop soft swirls of buttercream. She added edible lace around the base and 1 single candle resting to the side. As the woman admired it, Melissa leaned forward. I've been meaning to ask, she said. What's Anna like? The woman blinked. Quiet, curious, very kind. Always asked questions as a child. Melissa tilted her head. And now? The woman's smile faltered. Barely. She's still the same, just grown. Melissa tried again. Does she know she's adopted? This time, the woman's expression froze completely. I'm sorry, she said, voice cooler. Why would you ask that? Melissa didn't answer right away. Instead, she folded her hands. I just recognized something in her. In the way you talk about her. The woman didn't speak. She took the box, held it tightly, and left without saying another word. Melissa stood frozen for several minutes after the door closed. Then she turned to Callie. I need to deliver the next cake myself. That night she contacted Harper. I know where the party is. He didn't question her. 2 days later, Melissa followed the blue pickup truck out of town. She stayed 3 cars behind. Harper followed in another vehicle farther back. They drove to the edge of a small meadow outside Benton. Near an old church that hadn't held service in years, the truck parked. The woman exited with the cake. The younger girl, Ava, stepped out a few minutes later from a side door. Melissa's breath caught again. She was laughing, free, unaware, unharmed. She hugged the woman, helped her carry the box. They entered the church hall together, and for a moment, Melissa felt both relief and devastation at once. She waited in the car until everyone else had left. Harper approached the building under the guise of an old friend. He spoke to a man at the door, showed ID, asked questions. He returned 20 minutes later. Her name is Anna Reynolds, he said. Birth certificate shows Benton, Arkansas. Mother listed as Donna Reynolds. No father, no adoption record found. Melissa stared at him. It's fake, isn't it? Harper didn't answer. That night she sat on her apartment floor and wrote another letter. This time she addressed it. To Ava, I saw you. I'm your sister, and I never stopped waiting for you. She didn't know how she'd deliver it yet, but she would. Melissa Jordan had stared at her sister's face on a cake, then on a church step. Now she stared at it in a photo. Harper placed the printed image on the bakery's counter the next morning. It was grainy but clear enough. Ava, or Anna, laughing as she cut the cake. The same pink key Melissa had piped sat atop the frosting, just behind the candle. She looks happy, Harper said, though the words came with hesitation. Melissa didn't respond right away. She just ran her thumb across the edge of the photo, like she was trying to feel her sister through it. I need to talk to her, she said finally. Not her mother, not you, her. The problem was, there were no legal grounds yet. The Reynolds woman, if that was her real name, had legal custody documentation for Anna, but none of it matched any known databases. Harper suspected they were forged. The birth certificate had a doctor's signature from a hospital that had closed in 2006, before Anna was supposedly born there. Worse, no photos of Ava after her 5th birthday had ever surfaced. No fingerprints, no school enrollment tied to her legal identity. Whoever took her had been smart, calculated, disconnected. Possibly living off the grid for years. The cake order had broken a pattern, and now Melissa and Harper had one shot. They created a plan. It was risky, but clean. Melissa would send the letter, not confrontational, not accusatory, just enough to open a door. She addressed it to Anna Reynolds and dropped it off in the church mailbox. Inside the envelope, she included a copy of the birthday invitation, the original, with Ava's crayon scribbles. She didn't sign it. Just one line. You once had a butterfly balloon, a doll named Anna, and a sister who brushed your hair. I'm still here. Days passed. No response. Then, late one evening, the bakery phone rang. The number was blocked. Melissa hesitated before answering. "Sweet Roots," she said carefully. Silence. Then a voice, young, unsure. "Did you write me that letter?" Melissa's heart leapt to her throat. "Yes," she whispered. The girl's voice trembled. "Who are you?" "I'm your sister," Melissa said softly. Long pause, then, "Why now?" Melissa steadied herself. "Because your birthday cake told me you were alive." They met at dawn 2 days later. Ava chose the place, a small park by the riverbank in Benton. Melissa sat on a bench and waited, hands twisting in her lap. She wore a blue hoodie, no makeup, hair in a braid just like the ones she used to give Ava. At 6:12 a.m., a figure approached. Same brown braid, same eyes, taller now, older, but it was her. Melissa stood. Ava stopped a few feet away, uncertain. For a moment, they just stared. Then Melissa whispered, "Hi, sunshine." Ava's breath hitched. "How do you know that?" she asked. Melissa smiled, eyes already wet. "I used to sing it to you." They sat in silence at first. The air was cold, but Ava didn't seem to notice. She hugged her knees to her chest, staring out at the water. "She told me I was abandoned," Ava said, "that my parents didn't want me, that you moved away." "That I was better off not knowing," Melissa swallowed hard. "She lied." Ava looked at her. Why would someone do that? Melissa didn't have an answer. She reached into her bag and pulled out the birthday invitation. Folded. Faded. Ava took it. The purple crayon was smudged, but the name Anna was still visible beneath the butterfly. Her hands shook. "I remember this," she whispered. Over the next hour, everything began to unravel. Ava, or Anna, shared bits and pieces of her life. How she'd never been allowed to go to public school, how she was homeschooled by Donna using old textbooks, how she didn't have a Social Security number until she was 14, and even that one felt wrong. How she was told to avoid doctors, dentists, anything official. Melissa told her about the search, the flyers, the way their family fell apart, the thousands of nights wondering if Ava was warm, fed, safe. "I thought you were dead," Melissa said softly. "I thought I'd never existed," Ava replied. But the biggest piece came later, when Ava mentioned the attic. "She keeps boxes locked up there," Ava said. "Old papers, clothes. Once, when I was little, I found a photo album with pictures of a girl who looked like me. But the name wasn't mine. It was Ava. When I asked about it, she burned the whole album." Melissa's eyes widened. "Do you think she kept anything else?" Ava nodded slowly. "She has a locked drawer in her room. I've seen her hide envelopes in there. Letters. I think she's scared." That was enough for Harper. The next morning he submitted an official request to reopen the missing person case. The DNA sample would take time, but now they had witness testimony, photos, and potential evidence locked in that house. They needed a warrant, but they needed Ava's help to get it. That night, Ava snuck into Donna's room. The key was hidden inside a stuffed bear. The drawer was full. Passports, fake IDs, letters postmarked from 3 different states. and a crumpled drawing of a butterfly balloon and a girl with braids. Ava took pictures of everything and sent them to Melissa, who forwarded them to Harper. Within 12 hours, the police had what they needed. They raided the house at 6:42 a.m. Donna Reynolds didn't resist. She just sat on the porch swing with a cup of tea and said, "I knew this day would come." She was arrested for kidnapping, obstruction of justice, forgery, and falsifying identity records. But even in cuffs, she turned to Ava and said, "I loved you more than they ever would have." Ava didn't respond. She walked away. At the station, the DNA confirmed what they already knew. Ava Jordan was alive. After 15 years, the case was closed, or reopened, depending on how you saw it. Ava Jordan was no longer missing. Her name was now attached to hundreds of reports, headlines, online articles, and interview requests. Within 72 hours of the DNA confirmation, news outlets ran the story as if they'd never stopped caring. Missing child found after 15 years. Identity hidden by kidnapper. Vanished girl returns through birthday cake order. The sister who never gave up, how a baker brought Ava Jordan home. But behind the headlines, the truth was stranger and darker than the public ever knew. The first layer of the truth came from Donna Reynolds herself. After her arrest, she refused a lawyer at first. Said she didn't need one, that everything she did was in love. The interrogation was recorded. She was calm, composed, smiling at times. She was crying, she said, all alone in the grass. No one was watching her. I didn't take her. I rescued her. Harper sat across the table, jaw clenched. You walked away with someone else's child. She followed me, Donna replied. At 5 years old? Donna shrugged. I gave her a new life. She was supposed to be mine. God took my baby and gave me hers. That line struck Harper cold. What do you mean God took your baby? Donna didn't answer, so Harper dug. He found a birth certificate from 2008, 2 years before Ava's disappearance. Name, Eliza Marie Reynolds. Mother, Donna Reynolds. Father, unknown status, deceased, August 2009, age 1. Cause, CDS, sudden infant death syndrome. The obituary was short and vague. No photos, just a Bible verse and an anonymous donation request. There was no burial site listed. Harper called Melissa immediately. She lost a daughter, he said, just a year before Ava disappeared. Melissa sat down hard on the floor of her apartment. She took Ava to replace her? Harper nodded. Looks like it. But there was more. Donna had lived in Little Rock before. Briefly. She'd volunteered at community events at a local church, including a few fundraisers at Barton Park, including possibly the week before Ava's party. Her name had never appeared in police records because she used a different last name at the time, Donna Matthews, her maiden name. She blended in, kept to herself. No one suspected anything, and she'd watched Ava, watched Melissa. It became clear she hadn't acted on impulse. She had planned it. From the moment she saw Ava, Donna had built a new fantasy, a daughter she could love without fear of loss. She learned their routines, the birthday date, the layout of the park. And when the moment came, she walked away with Ava in her arms. No one noticed. No one stopped her. She disappeared, changed her name, moved 3 towns over, burned old records, hid in plain sight. And no one looked there. Melissa sat with Ava the night they learned all this. The bakery was closed. The lights were low, 2 cups of tea between them. Ava held the obituary in her hands. So I'm not the first, she said quietly. Melissa reached over and took her hand. You're the only one who matters now. But Ava wasn't done asking questions, and the next one changed everything. Why didn't you come sooner? Melissa froze. I mean, 15 years, Mel. If you were looking, why didn't you find me before now? Melissa's voice cracked. We tried. We did everything. She didn't leave a trail. But I wasn't hiding. I had a Facebook page. I used the name Anna Reynolds. There were pictures, videos. Melissa blinked. What? Ava nodded slowly. She let me use social media after I turned 16. Said it was safe by then. Private, but still, it was there. Melissa stood suddenly. Her hands trembled. We never saw that. The police. No one found it. Harper pulled the site that night, and sure enough, there it was. Photos, posts, friend lists, none of them flagged by any search software. Why? Because Donna had manually edited every image's metadata. She'd turned off geolocation, changed timestamps, tagged random fake cities, and, most importantly, never let Ava use her real birth date. But someone had seen it, and that's when the second, deeper layer of the truth came to light. A message came into Melissa's business email that week, anonymous, no subject, no signature. I saw her face years ago. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't want to ruin her life. Attached was a screenshot of Ava's Facebook profile from 2020. Melissa responded instantly. Within hours, she got a reply. She looked happy. I figured it wasn't my business. I was wrong. I'm sorry. The email traced back to Joanna, Melissa's old best friend, the one who helped her paint the walls of the bakery. They hadn't spoken in 4 years, not since an argument about Melissa's obsession with Ava's case. Joanna had found Ava's profile 3 years earlier while scrolling a local church event album. She thought the girl looked familiar, clicked, scanned. She never said a word. Melissa confronted her in person. Joanna cried, said she didn't know what to do, said she didn't want to destroy the life of a girl who looked like she was finally okay. Melissa screamed, I lost everything, Joe, my sister, my parents, you, because I refused to stop believing, and you just moved on? Joanna said nothing. Melissa walked away and never looked back. The fallout continued. Linda Jordan, their mother, refused to see Ava, at least at first. She's a stranger now, she said, tears in her eyes. I don't know how to be her mother. Melissa begged her to try. She needs you, she said. I need you. Weeks passed. Then one Saturday morning, Linda showed up at the bakery. Ava was in the back, folding boxes. Linda walked in quietly. Her hands shook. I brought her favorite juice, she said, holding a bottle of strawberry lemonade. Melissa stepped aside. From the kitchen, Ava emerged slowly. She froze when she saw the woman in the doorway. Linda whispered, Hi, baby. And Ava dropped the box and ran into her arms. They sobbed. Melissa watched through tears. Something that had been broken for 15 years finally clicked back into place, but one last secret remained, and it was Ava who found it. Weeks later, she went back to the farmhouse to pack up her things, to say goodbye, to bury the ghost of the only mother she'd ever known. In the attic, beneath a floorboard, she found a second box. Inside, a pair of tiny white baby shoes, a charred photo album, a lock of hair in an envelope, and a small notebook. Inside the notebook, Donna's handwriting, page after page, letters to Eliza, the child she lost, the grief that followed, and a plan. I've seen her again, the girl at the park. She looks like Eliza would have looked. It's a sign. I'll bring her home. I'll love her the way I couldn't love my own. They won't understand. They'll say it's wrong, but love isn't wrong. This time, I'll get it right. Melissa read every page. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just closed the notebook and said, Now we know. Ava looked at her. Do you forgive her? Melissa took a long breath. I don't need to. Ava stood at the edge of Barton Park, her hands buried deep in the pockets of her jacket. It was the first time she'd returned. Melissa walked a few steps behind, watching as her sister looked across the open field where it had all begun. The grass was greener now. The red maple was gone, struck by lightning and removed years ago, but the memories clung to the soil like roots. I don't remember the moment it happened, Ava said softly, but I remember the balloon. Melissa nodded. It had pink swirls, Ava continued. And a long white string. I let go of it right before—" She stopped. Melissa stepped beside her and finished for her. "Right before she walked away with you." Ava looked up at the sky as if the balloon might still be drifting somewhere up there, lost but intact. "She said she found me," Ava whispered, "but she didn't. She waited. She watched." Melissa's jaw tensed, but her voice was calm. "She did terrible things, but they don't define you." They walked in silence for a while. Children laughed nearby. A birthday party was being set up under the new pavilion. Pink balloons swayed in the breeze. Music played faintly from a Bluetooth speaker. Ava flinched at the sound of "You Are My Sunshine," Melissa noticed. "You don't have to stay," she offered. "We can leave whenever you're ready." Ava shook her head. "No, I want to see it, all of it. I want to remember me here." Melissa smiled gently. "Then let's remember you." Back at the bakery that night, Melissa brought out something she hadn't shown anyone in years. A small box, wrapped in the same blue ribbon her grandmother had used to tie the original recipe book. Ava opened it slowly. Inside, a single Polaroid photo. Her at 5 years old, grinning with a frosting-smeared face and a butterfly balloon tied to her wrist. She stared at it for a long time. "Did you keep this all these years?" she asked. Melissa nodded. "It was the last one we ever took of you." Ava ran her finger along the edge of the picture. "I don't know who I am," she said, voice cracking. "Am I Anna? Am I Ava? Am I someone she made up, or someone you've been waiting for?" Melissa reached across the table, her hand firm and steady. "You're you. You're here. And we have time now. We'll figure the rest out together." Linda started visiting every Sunday. At first it was awkward, quiet, heavy with things unsaid. But little by little the weight began to lift. She brought old toys, photo albums, even Ava's baby blanket, long tucked away in a cedar chest. One Sunday afternoon, Ava arrived early and found Linda in the kitchen, humming as she made lemonade. She watched silently for a moment before speaking. "You used to sing to me." Linda turned, surprised. I did?" Ava nodded. "I don't remember the words, just the sound of your voice." Linda placed a hand on her shoulder. "I remember every note." They cried together that day, and the walls between them began to fall. Harper Wells came to the bakery every Friday. Not for cake, though he always left with a lemon scone, but to check in. He declined every interview request, refused every credit. When asked why, he simply said, "I just did my job. A little late, maybe, but I did it." Melissa offered to name a cupcake after him. He chuckled. "Call it the Cold Case Crumble." A week later it appeared on the menu. As for Donna Reynolds, she remained in custody, awaiting trial. Her lawyers attempted a mental health defense, citing unresolved grief and psychosis. The media spun her as a tragic figure, a grieving mother gone too far. But for Ava, there was no poetry in that narrative. She wrote a statement for the court. Melissa helped her craft it. It was read aloud at Donna's arraignment. "I am not your daughter. You did not rescue me. You erased me. But I survived. And I remember now, I remember the doll you burned, the name you made me forget, the birthdays you rewrote. I'm taking them back." Donna never looked at her once. The trial was scheduled for fall. Melissa and Ava didn't plan to attend, not because they didn't care, but because they no longer needed to. The truth had been uncovered. The past no longer owned them. On Ava's next birthday, they returned to the park, not to revisit pain, but to create something new. Melissa baked a cake, white frosting, raspberry filling, 5 butterflies, 1 pink key, and this time, 21 candles. Family gathered, friends. Even some of the detectives who'd once knocked on their door all those years ago. As the sun set, Ava closed her eyes and made a wish. When she opened them, she looked at Melissa and smiled. I wished for peace. Melissa raised her glass of lemonade. To the only wish I ever made. They clinked cups. And for the first time since she was 15, Melissa felt the taste of joy. Real joy. The kind that didn't hurt to hold. Later that night, they sat on the porch of Melissa's apartment, watching the moon rise. Ava held the photo again. "Do you think she'll ever tell me why?" she asked. Melissa didn't answer at first. Then, gently, "I don't think there is a why that will ever make sense." Ava nodded. Then looked at her sister. "But I have a who, and that's enough." It was a quiet Sunday morning when Melissa opened a letter that had no return address. The envelope was cream-colored, thick paper. The handwriting unfamiliar but careful. Inside was a card, simple. One sentence, "Thank you for never forgetting her." There was no signature, no clue where it came from, but Melissa held it to her chest and closed her eyes. Some things she thought didn't need to be solved. Some things were just known. 15 years ago she had stood in the same kitchen cutting a cake for a sister who would never taste it. 15 years later, she cut another slice. This time, Ava sat across from her, licking icing from her fingers and laughing at something stupid on TV. The ghosts were quieter now. Still present, but quieter. The missing pieces hadn't all been recovered, but enough of them had been returned. Enough to build something new. Ava started working at the bakery, just part-time, filling boxes, taking inventory, learning the way Melissa liked her counters organized. One afternoon, a woman asked if she could write a message on a cake for her daughter. Ava hesitated. "Sure," she said, after a beat. "What should it say?" The woman smiled. "Happy birthday, butterfly." Ava blinked. Her hand trembled just slightly. Then she picked up the piping bag and nodded. Therapy became part of their routine, not because they were broken, but because they refused to stay buried. Ava talked about memories that returned in pieces, the feel of a cold hallway at night, the smell of burnt toast, the echo of a lullaby she didn't recognize until Melissa hummed it again. She admitted to feeling two people inside one body. "I'm not sure who I'm supposed to be," she said one session. The therapist replied, "You don't have to choose. You can be both. That's still whole." And for the first time, Ava didn't argue. One day, Melissa found a notebook on the kitchen table. Ava's handwriting, page after page of thoughts, some angry, some poetic, some just questions. If she raised me, does that make her my mother? If I missed someone I didn't know, does that make me ungrateful? If I'm a survivor, when do I get to stop surviving and just live? At the end of the notebook was a single sentence. "Melissa gave me back to myself." Melissa didn't say anything when she read it. She just hugged Ava a little tighter that night. Harper Wells retired for good the following spring, moved to the mountains, got a dog, sent Melissa photos of both regularly. But he sent Ava one final letter. It read, "Sometimes justice doesn't come with sirens. Sometimes it arrives in a bakery box with a key piped in frosting. You are proof that the story isn't over until you say it is." The case of Ava Jordan closed officially, but people still asked questions. Podcasters, reporters, even film producers. Melissa declined them all. She didn't want a movie. She wanted mornings with coffee and flour on her shirt. She wanted to see Ava rebuild her life without the pressure of becoming a headline. Some stories didn't need to be sold. They needed to be protected. One summer night they visited the cemetery. Ava placed a flower on a stone that read, "Eliza Marie Reynolds." She stood there for a long time. Then she whispered, "I'm sorry she couldn't stay, but I'm still here. And I'll carry her with me, not because of what she took from me, but because of what I choose to reclaim." Melissa stood beside her, silent, and they walked away without looking back. The bakery grew. Melissa expanded into the space next door. Ava took over online orders. They started a scholarship fund for families affected by abduction and identity loss. They named it the Butterfly Fund, because wings don't always mean escape. Sometimes they mean return. Years later, on Ava's 30th birthday, Melissa handed her a gift. Inside, a small silver key on a chain. A replica of the one Ava had asked for on that second cake. Ava smiled. "It's perfect," she said. Melissa grinned. "It opens the drawer under the register. There's a letter in there. You'll know when to open it." Ava laughed. "You're always dramatic." Melissa winked. "You're always worth the drama." That night they sat under the stars on the back porch. Ava sipped tea. Melissa scribbled ideas for the next week's menu. And for a moment, there was nothing missing, no ache, no loss. Just presence, just peace. She was taken at a birthday party and found through a cake. But the real rescue was the day she came back to herself, because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is remember, and bake our way home